Dylan Allman, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you, man. I want you to first give an introduction, let people know who you are, and also for my own benefit, because frankly, I don't think I know exactly who Dylan Allman is, other than the guy who shows up in my Twitter feed, who I'm constantly saying "fuck yeah." I completely agree with most of the shit you post. So, give us a TLDR, man.
To be honest, that's pretty much who I am. At least public facing. I'm just a guy with a Twitter account that likes to post his opinions about certain things. I used to be a lot more cavalier with that. I deliberately took a turn to be more deliberate, I guess, when it comes to the things that I post. Make it more thoughtful. I'm not a huge fan of the current.
Love it.
I'm not
Shut
a
up,
huge
guys.
fan. I'm not a huge fan of the current online political discourse, how it's just the worst incentive structure on the planet, and just everyone is just yelling at each other for clicks at all times. And, I took my own part in that for a while. And unfortunately, I think that's what I built my following off of. So taking a more deliberate turn has made it a struggle to maintain a sort of social media growth. But um, I'm trying to find my way there, but it's more of just like a passion thing at this point. I'm not trying to really make a whole lot of influence here. I don't think I could make a whole lot of influence. It's just Twitter, really. Um, but that's that kind of side of my life. I did some political work last year. I did some stuff for the American Values Super PAC, which was the political organization that was supporting RFK Jr. for president when he was an independent. I kind of got duped into that. A lot of my own doing, that sort of political hopium it can be really strong at times, and I found myself partaking. Um, and then once it turned into, hey, so don't say anything mean about Donald Trump anymore, I was like, okay, I'm good. Got out of there. I've done a lot of stuff for the Libertarian Party. Nothing super official. I just kind of run in those circles a little bit, friends wise. So I've done some stuff there. I did a few years ago, found and ran the ghostguns.com social media for about a year. So that was cool. Before then, I was in the military for 4 years. Got out as a conscientious objector. That was kind of a whole thing like 4 years ago. Did some shows around that. Gave a couple of
What branch are
talks.
you in, by the way?
Army.
Cool, me too.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I have a lot of strong opinions about lots of things. I'm really passionate about philosophy. I'm really passionate about individualism in particular, as it pertains to philosophy, and that informs basically all of my politics. That's pretty much it from that angle.
Funny, we got a lot of parallels, man. So I got to ask, how did you get into philosophy?
It really, it's interesting. To kind of like reel it back a little bit and start from a good foundation. I was talking to my little brother earlier today, trying to figure out why we are the way that we are, because we're very different than our parents. I grew up in a very strict household. My stepfather was very much like, I'm the king of the house. Like, don't question me or you'll be punished. And they were very Christian conservative. Both my parents were cops. Now my stepfather is up there in the Secret Service, and so that is creates a certain type of household growing up. And I was the oldest, and what really kind of kicked me into gear is to really start questioning things was, and I was thinking about this today actually, the very first time I really sat down and like thought about something beyond surface level, like really questioned something, was, I think when I was 14 years old, we just got a new youth pastor at our church. And he came in, and whenever we'd read scripture, we always read from these very specific editions of the Bible. I don't remember the translation, but I always remembered it was the blue Bible and it had the little play button on the front and all that. And he came in, and one of his first things, he was like, "Hey, so I'm making a change here. From now on, we're going to read scripture from this other Bible, this different translation, because the other one has like some problematic verses in it that I'd rather us avoid." And to me, I was like, what the fuck is that? You, these are supposed to be the answers to the universe. I mean, we're going to church every Sunday. I grew up in this. I'm taught that this is the way. And now it's like, oh, just this Bible has these other things in it that we don't want. We're going to use this different one. So I was like, what is going on here? And that was the first time that I really started to question that. And the real turning point for me that was significant was a few years after that. I think I was 16, maybe 17. I had a high school girlfriend that I dated for like over 2 years. And she was very much like this, like, rebellious type. She grew up in a religious household too, and was just like, screw God, I don't like him. And so I was still very religious at the time, and we were walking around the city center, and there was a street preacher, and she looks over to me and she goes, "Dylan, am I going to hell?" And this is my girlfriend. I'm like, I mean, I said that I loved her, but I mean, it's a high school relationship. And I thought about it for a second, and I looked at her, and I was like, yeah, like, yeah, I guess you are. And later that night, it really weighed on me, where I was like, this person I supposedly love, I'm just like, hey, yeah, you're gonna go and suffer forever in a lake of fire in hell, and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, man, I don't like that. Like, I really don't like that. And there's a lot of things in this world that we don't like. That doesn't mean they're not true. But I thought to myself, like, let me make sure I have good reason to believe that this is true before I continue to believe it, because it sucks. I don't like it. And that was my real pathway towards looking outward and trying to think about things on a deeper level. And I went down this path where I thought that the word atheist meant worshiping the devil until after that moment. So I was like 17 years old when I did that. And so obviously that brings a lot of rage out of a young person, where it's like, what else is being kept from me? And I turned into this, like, militant Reddit atheist type. Which makes sense. Like, it's this reactionary pendulum swing in the opposite direction. And then I was like, man, I've got this religious hole in my heart. So then I became Mormon for a year, which was interesting as an adult. And eventually I kind of settled out at just like, I'm just not religious at this point. Like, I'm not a militant atheist, but technically I guess I'm an atheist, but I'm much more agnostic than a lot of these other atheists out there. But that's what got me into that. And then I began to think more like, okay, what else is different than the way that it seems, that I've been conditioned to believe is just how it is. And then I started looking into, okay, well, politics is the other thing, because, everyone's always like, religion and politics, those are like the big things. So I was like, well, let's look into that. And then I started getting into libertarianism, and really started from the bottom, just like on my own, reading books. The first libertarian book I ever read was The Libertarian Mind by David Boaz, which is really good. And it was just like, wow, like, that's interesting. And it just kind of went from there. I mean, a lot of people that have gone down this similar path have, it just, you start as like this kind of like vanilla small government person, and then, full blown anarchist in like 6 months. And it's a very similar pathway for me, but I went through that path while I was in the military, which was
Wow.
crazy. Um, so yeah, I mean that's pretty much where I started, and I ended up learning a lot and growing in that way while I was in the military, and then I was like, ah, shit, like am I'm stuck here. I'm like working for the enemy, or I am in some sense. And so I was like, I need to get out of here, and went through the whole process of getting out as a conscious objector, which took a year in and of itself. So that was crazy. And then I got out of the army and moved to Austin and got married, and now life is wonderful.
Well, it's really funny, man. We have a ton of parallels. Tracked almost identically, man. I went through my old Reddit atheist phase, and now I'm much less hostile towards religion. I think I see the value in it now. I think that there's a lot of people on the atheist side that clearly don't understand the value to the West that particularly Christianity has had. And I think both things can be true at the same time. It can be literally false, but metaphorically true, as Brett Weinstein likes to say. But that's really cool, man. It's a cool story arc. Do you ever regret uh, going down this road? Because I often, this is the struggle I always have, is I just look at the normies, man, and they're everywhere. Sometimes you wonder, it's like that Matrix thing. Like, hey, maybe it's better if I'm just plugged in and think I'm eating a steak, because knowledge, there's such weight, there's such gravity that comes with it, and if you feel, at least I do, completely isolated, I'm always like, what the hell is going on? I'm raging at the world, like why don't you see this? This is so plainly obvious to me what's going on. Um, and it just, sometimes you wonder if it would just be better just to be plugged back into the matrix, because this is it's a lot of suffering on this side, I think.
I'll tell you what, I did feel that way particularly strongly while I was in the military, because I felt so helpless and was very depressed for a while before I mustered up the courage to leave. Um, and I was like 100% what you were saying, and nowadays, not at all. Mainly because the only way that I could have done it differently is by suppressing myself. Um, and I have a pinned tweet on my profile that talks about what I feel like my meaning of life is, and it's to essentially be as conscious as possible and to open myself up as much as possible, learn as much as possible, because life is finite in many different ways. It's very limited in many different ways. I will never ever be able to consider everything. I'll never be able to know what I don't know. And if I close myself off to anything, I'm limiting myself even more than the natural limitations that have already been brought upon me. And to me, that's very counterintuitive to life itself, because what else am I supposed to do other than live? And if I'm not, if I'm not living, then it's like, so I don't feel that way at all, because it would require me to close myself off in ways that uh quite frankly make me feel like I'm just wasting this gift that who or whatever gave it to me. um and I just don't want to do that. I mean, in fact, like I'm constantly poking and prodding at my own self, and it's like, hey, why do I believe this? Is this thing that I believe a product of like my own introspection and thoughts, and did I get here myself, or is it just like years of conditioning? And and this lack of questioning, and I just kind of fell into this position. And if it's the latter, it's like, let me think about this. Let me figure out if I'm let me actually exercise autonomy over myself. And that could be tough. And I completely sympathize with the idea of wanting to close Pandora's box, but it's kind of what you were talking about, where it's like, you see the value in religion and what it's brought to the West. And the problem is, in order for me to acknowledge such a thing, and I acknowledge that it was difficult for me to acknowledge it for a long time, because I don't think that religion brings value to me for many reasons. And in order for me to concede that it brings value to other people, is to put those people in a category that I feel like are, for the lack of a better term, like less enlightened or capable than I am, which I hate, because
Sounds elitist, doesn't it?
Right, it absolutely does. And it's like, okay, well, not everybody is able to be happy and find meaning in nihilism. And it's like, I get that. But like, I don't want to be the guy who's like this special, enlightened fucking elitist that can live without religion. So it's this like double-edged sword, where it's like, I recognize the benefit, but it's because people just need this what Nietzsche calls the slave morality. And like, that sucks. But that's just, it seems like that's how it is.
It does, but it's the old philosophical question of compared to what, right? Like if this system of morality, even if it's literally false, but people act as if it's true, they believe that there's these universal ethics that are dictated from on high, and that provides guardrails to keep the chimpanzees from ripping each other to shreds. I'll take that win. I guess I'm grateful for that, even if it ends up being literally false. I think I've sort of evolved my thinking about it over time.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I acknowledge the truth in that, but it makes it difficult because, as I was saying before, I very deliberately exercise or try and practice this like extreme humility, because otherwise you're closing yourself off to many different things. And so, of course, it makes it difficult for me to be like, okay, well, that person obviously needs guardrails. And it's like, that seems very counterintuitive to like what I was saying earlier about consciousness being, the North Star here. So I don't know. It's a very difficult conversation for me to wrap my head around, because I don't want that for those people, but it seems like they need it. It's
I think so, man. And the worst part is that it's degrading. Even that form of, metaphysical guardrails, it seems like it's buckling. Society is getting worse, which I want to jump into this topic because today was the day that the Epstein victims were in Capitol Hill, and they were, begging for justice. And Donald Trump was doing a military flyover over the press conference, which sure felt like a threat to me. And we've got, and you've seen them, the influencers on the right that are like, hey, we support pedophiles now, deal with it. Like that sort of view amongst society really makes me depressed, for lack of a better word, right? I'm seeing, and I talked about this, the lectern guy, like Adam Johnson.
mm-hmm.
I had him on right before you, and he really sort of cleared some things up for me about the fact that people are just really on teams and they want political wins, and there's no core morality or even principles that are guiding these parties anymore. I think we see this now, like the right and the left. There's no distinguishing. It's like this one amorphous blob, and all they care about is power. And the leaders will say whatever they want to say, even if it contradicts the thing they said 5 minutes ago, as long as it advances their power structure. And for me, that's a very scary place to be. And I think we're seeing with each political cycle, these election cycles, it get worse and worse over time. It's very difficult to be in the situation I am, where I'm like, I really have core principles. Like I said, I'm rooted in sound moral philosophy. I understand the non-aggression principle is very, very important to me. That we treat each other, ethically, and to look at the rest of the world. And it seems like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like there's almost nobody. There's like five of us that care about this, and the rest of society is just, it's tribal warfare all the way down.
Yeah, I mean, I think uh, on the biggest display, I mean, you see like Laura Loomer posted that tweet about condemning Marjorie Taylor Greene for essentially speaking at an anti-Trump press conference earlier, which is just a nuts thing to say. I don't know. And then at the end, it's like anybody who calls out Massey and so or blah blah blah, and but doesn't call out Marjorie Taylor Greene is being disloyal to Trump. It's like, dude, we care about that so much. Like it's not even a political faction anymore. Like it's not a political philosophy. It's not a set of viewpoints. It's not a set of principles or policy positions. It's centered around a specific personality, and it's rough because it's not like, I mean, the post that you cited when you asked me to come on was, it draws it back to the sort of individualism that I was talking about earlier. It's like these people just can't, they don't seem to be motivated or I mean, dare I say, capable of being a person. Like
Mm.
they just need something to latch onto. And for the sake of those people, if they truly are incapable of practicing autonomy, I would hope that they would grab onto something that's less less dangerous to me. If they wanted to be like Buddhist or something, that's not gonna fuck me up. It's like, look, if you wanna just like do all that, I might look down on you a little bit because you're not really being an individual here, but at least you're not dangerous to me, and um that's just not the case with MAGA whatsoever. Like this is a force for absolute destruction, and they're just happy about it, and it's really difficult to see because
Doesn't it make you lose hope in humanity, man? Because particularly this Epstein thing has caused me to crash out in like the worst way, because I'm a victim of childhood sexual abuse. So this is like really striking home for me. And to watch the entire country collectively shrug about this issue, or even worse, to defend it, to swoop in and to attack people like Thomas Massey who are trying to get to the truth. Like it feels like there's this lack of humanity out there. If we cannot even coalesce as a society to protect girls that were like underage girls that were raped by powerful people, and the fact that our politicians appear to have been blackmailed by a foreign government with this compromise material, and to collectively shrug and nobody really care. For me, that's a really dark thing to comprehend, and I still like daily I struggle with that. I'm like, how am I living in this world, man? Especially maybe what hurts the worst, and this is because I come from that religious background like you did, and uh, these people that say all these words, the Christian right, they seem to talk about morality all the time, and they like to finger wag people that live their life differently, that might conflict with their Christian values and stuff. And then you literally have the President of the United States, who appears by all the evidence, if you triangulate, points directly at him as being a pedophile and a child rapist, and he's actively committing a crime. Everybody knows he's committing a crime by obstructing justice in the most highest profile case of mass child sex trafficking the world has ever seen publicly. Crickets, man. Like complete silence. It is shocking, and it's absolutely appalling, and it's slightly depressing.
I think the problem is that it turned into something political. It wasn't political 4 years ago. It was everyone that was like, maybe the Democrats thought like were skeptical about being this grand conspiracy, but the dude got, you know, arrested for raping kids. That was undeniable, and then Ghislaine Maxwell as well. So it's not like it wasn't hyper politicized in the way that it is now, or really at all. And so the problem is that these people, to give them the benefit of the doubt, is that they're not defending child rape. They're not even defending people that facilitated the child rape. What they're doing is, what they seem to be doing is, Trump basically gave them an out. Because in order to admit the wrongdoing on regarding the cover-up on the right would just be catastrophic, because these people, it's their entire identity is to be a part of this MAGA team. And if they were to admit that there is something wrong with it, then the sunk cost fallacy starts boiling up in their body. It's like, well, if Trump is compromised, then like my entire identity for the past 8 years is just shot. I'm wrong. And so their cognitive dissonance is eating at them and forcing them to grab at anything possible to try and justify that mentality. And so all Trump had to do, and he understands this very clearly, is to just give them something. And so, of course, it's like, okay, well, it's a Democrat hoax. And so, regardless of anything else that comes out, in order for them to admit otherwise, is to completely destroy a part of themselves that they've probably alienated lots of people in their life. They've probably done lots of things that they would otherwise be ashamed of, or would think wasn't worth it. And so if they backtrack and admit that this part of themselves is wrong or misguided, then like all of that was for nothing. All of that time and energy that they put into campaigning for Trump, for doing this and that, is all wasted. And so he gives them something and says it's a Democrat hoax. And now, boom, in their head, they've got something. And so now it doesn't matter. You've got people like Laura Loomer, who I genuinely don't think, like, if she was like in the room with Donald Trump, who was raping a child, I don't think she'd be like, that's good.
Are
But
you
for
sure,
her,
though? I mean, she might be a bad
sure
case,
hope not.
because I don't know if you know this, but number one, like, she's been like prohibited from having weapons. She's
I guess
been
that's true. She's a very,
involuntarily
very whack
committed.
person.
I feel like she's off the reservation. There's something seriously wrong with her mentally, and she's one of those people that is a true believer. To your point, like, I think if she was in the room, she would be like, how can I help cover this up? Where are we going to bury the body, Donald? I got the lime, I got the tarp, where are we going? Like, that's the type of ride or die that she appears to be, to me. So maybe that's the wrong
Maybe that's
example.
a bad example. Maybe like a Charlie Kirk, like the grifter of the grifters. I think that he grabbed onto something so he could maintain that audience that he has, so they could continue to believe that he's on that team, and he gave them that out. And so at this point, the people that are like truly diehard MAGAs, like not like the grifters, like I talked about in my post, where it's like, to me, it's the I truly look down more on the people that are like have lost all individuality. I mean, like, obviously there's something to be said about the grifter that's taking advantage of that, but at least they're like still a person, like at least they're still exercising that autonomy to be like, hey, I'm going to take advantage of these dumbass people. But the dumbass people are the ones that are like, oh yeah, Democrat hoax, great, perfect, running with that. And so now it's like they've been given that excuse, they've been given the talking points. And now they'll go after anybody, because anything that they perceive as being against Trump would be an attack on their identity, an attack on what they've been doing and defending for the past 8 years. And now that thing is the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. And so even if you have very clear, clear case of just, hey, this is a conference like about the victims, and they're talking about the victims, they associate that with, Trump told me not to buy into this. This is a Democrat hoax. Clearly, they're fighting against our movement, so hate them. Here's this next thing. So it's like it's very disheartening because like I just to allow somebody or something to just absolutely dictate what you think and do and say is just like the worst. Like you're just a robot because you're living somebody else's life at that point. Whose life that is, like I don't know. It could be an amalgamation of a lot of people's lives. But you're clearly not living your own life here. You're doing something for somebody else. And ultimately, if you go far enough up the chain of like, okay, this person's living this person's life and so on, you're going to get to someone who's living their own life. Just do that yourself. Why you gotta do what you're doing? I don't understand. Then again, like I don't want to think that these people are incapable of doing that. But at some point it's like, when do you just accept that as reality?
Yeah, well, the other flip side of that is that those people, if you accept this and you see it as like, oh, this is a depressing fact that these people are essentially fucking lemmings that are either not interested or not capable of individual thought and critical thinking operations. If you flip it on its head, like that's leverageable. Like, so I've always been trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how do we, get to, like people like you and me that care about individual liberty and, sound economic policy, like how do we get the message put forward? Because it feels like that message is just not popular. I've lamented oftentimes in the show that, so the Americans hate liberty. And I really believe that. Like right now, I look around and I think people hate liberty because it comes on that flip side of that coin with responsibility. And Americans right now don't want a thing to do with responsibility. It's a very dark thing, but it's like if we could just get somehow some sort of traction to sort of combat these people, I think we could make some inroads. I just don't know how to do it, but it feels like to me that it's something that's it's an opportunity that's just waiting to be leveraged. I'm just not smart enough to figure out how to do it.
I'm certainly not smart enough to figure out how to do it. I mean, I try to talk about things that I find to be important, and I give my opinion out there. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. Like I don't think that I'm making any sort of significant difference. Because if I'm just giving my opinion about something that's going on, that's not doing what you said, right? Like that sort of individuality comes from within. It's like
Well,
teaching somebody how to think versus what to think.
maybe. Hold on, sorry to interrupt, but like I
Yeah.
think maybe somebody like you, maybe somebody like me, has the ability to distribute information to help change people's minds, and maybe it's not a philosophical thing. I hate the word ideology, but people like to use that. But you don't always have to be making a point, an argument from ethics.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like I've seen some of your tweets about tariffs, right? Like people generally don't understand tariffs. That's just one option. Like amongst many that are factually wrong that it feels like we could be pushing back. There could be some education around this. Is education the right way to go at this? Because it
Well, the
feels
thing is,
like
we live in like a post-fact world. People don't just like disagree on like how to do things. They disagree on like the things themselves. It doesn't matter. Like it obviously depends on the person, but we can all think of a person that no matter how much you try to explain to them how tariffs work, it doesn't matter. China's paying the tariffs. That's just how it works. And so it's just like, hey, this thing happened. It's like, no, it didn't. That's irreconcilable. Like there's just this disagreement. There's this no longer a shared reality between a lot of people. And so a lot of what I post online, like a lot, if it's an opinion about like Epstein case, I don't think that does anything beneficial in what you were talking about, that real change. I think that's just me giving my opinion out there, and then other people that share the same opinion or oppose it interact with it. No one's mind is changing. There's no like step towards liberty in that sense. I think it comes from, obviously not in an exact way, but a similar journey that you said you had parallels with in my story, where you have to begin to think about things yourself, and that's not something that is easy. It's like what I was saying, like you to teach somebody how to think, not what to think. I'm posting a lot about what I think. I post some about how to think. Um, the thing is, like we were talking about before, the incentive structure is backwards. People hate that shit. It's not popular. It's not, like that will never gain traction. I post things that I am passionate about, that I put together, and it's like, okay, I really like this write up, and I put it out there, and just no one cares because it's not giving an opinion that they agree with. It's like trying to explain to people like how to think and like what's important in that respect, and that's how you change people's minds. But people need to be willing to listen, and I'm not sure how to do that. That's the issue, because we could sit down and talk about what we think about tariffs all day, but in order for someone to truly get on the side of individual liberty, you like they have to pick and prod at those intuitions that they have and get to it themselves. And people either don't do that, or even know how to do that, or even know that it's a thing to even do, like, at all. And it takes effort, and people don't want to exert that effort. They want to just, like, there's so many things to have opinions on at all times that it's daunting to try and figure everything out yourself. So the easiest thing to do is just to pick somebody that you think you're generally aligned with, and then just echo all of their opinions on it. So you just watch like one or two podcasts, and then get your talking points for the day, and then that's it. And I see stuff like that even in my own family. I mean, my dad just does that with Fox News. We'll talk to him, it's like, there's no way you have this intense of an opinion about tariffs. You don't like there's no economic thought behind this at all. It's just like, this is what I was told, this is the justification that I was told, and I'm just going to echo that because it's easier. Like, it makes sense. Like, that's just the easy thing to do, and people don't want to feel uninformed. There's this whole stigma around just like not having an opinion on something. Everyone has to have an opinion on everything at all times, and it has to be consistent since you were fucking born, or you're gonna get shit on. And like, that's a shit incentive system, because people are spending all their time figuring out what they need to think, and that's just echoing exactly the team that they're on, and no one learns how to think, which I think is necessary, because then we're just falling into the same trap, right? Like, we get a really popular libertarian podcast, and now people are just like, I'm going to think that now, and sure, they're going to come to, what we may feel like are more beneficial ends or more ethical ends, but they're still robots, and now we're just competing with the with the other people on trying to direct the robots in this direction. Maybe that's a worthwhile endeavor, but god damn it, that doesn't sound good, like. But I mean, what you take what you can get, I guess. I don't know. I'm just kind of
Yeah. No, that's great, man, and I feel all of that, and I always sort of tie things back to Ron Paul, because I saw his influence. There's just one person, and this is back before social media. He had to get on the damn TV. He was on Fox News, and he was in presidential debates, and he was delivering the message that way. And I see all the people in the liberty movement who have come to the liberty movement via this one person. And I keep thinking, like, God, somebody's got to crack the code. I don't know who it is. I don't know.
Well, Ron Paul was so good in particular because he was up there with the people that were just spewing nonsense or the talking points, and goes, that doesn't seem right. Like, here's why it doesn't seem right. And it wasn't people watching that went like, I'm just going to think everything Ron Paul does now. It was him igniting in them, like, oh, like, there doesn't need to be this line towed for conservatism, and these people are just echoing this. They're grifters in this way, and like, just think about it this way instead. Like, and that's great, and that's why he was so successful. I don't know how to emulate that, or to not emulate, but like recreate that, because like it seems like we've just fallen so much further than that, and people are just
Yes.
less and less receptive, which is very disheartening because
Yeah. He was so incisive because at the time when he was running for president, let's say '08, and even before that, when he was kind of a thorn in the Republican side, the Republicans were more opposite of what I talked about, meaning they had core principles, right? You could count on reliably most Republicans to be like, okay, I want smaller government, right? We want limited government. We want to protect gun rights. We want to, there was these checkbox where most Republicans would fit into. We were more on the religious right. And so he would be confrontational and he would expose their hypocrisy. Like, for example, the most hilarious clips ever, you've probably seen it, is watching the RNC boo the golden rule. He was talking, maybe we should have a golden rule in foreign policy, and they literally booed him off the stage. So he had that ability because he triangulated. He knew what the room was about. He knew generally what Republicans supported, and he could expose their hypocrisy in a pretty confrontational way. And now, like I said, it feels like there's like both parties are just this single amorphous blob that policies just switch around randomly, regardless. Like, for example, Donald Trump just took a 10% stake of Intel, a failing chip company. We're literally sliding towards communism, and the Republicans are just cheering in mass. It's just like clapping seals. So it makes it very difficult to replicate what Ron Paul did, I think, because you don't have this sort of clear delineation between sides. Like, okay, these people over here generally believe this. These people over, like, ultimately they're all raving communists to me, and I have a very difficult time like splitting the two apart. Is there even any differentiation between the two, other than one side's got blue hair and the other side's got tradcon outfit and whatever? Like, I'm not seeing a difference material.
I see. I like Ron Paul is very effective. Like, what's necessary is to do something similar like what Ron Paul did, because he would take an established narrative and poke a hole in it, and he'd poke another hole in it, and then it would be necessary for the people that recognize the hole that he poked and then dig themselves through it and then see it for what it is. That's what I'm talking about is necessary, because unless
Dude,
people are willing to do that, they
yeah,
get nowhere. And nowadays people would just not even acknowledge that hole is there and just shit on Ron Paul. And it's like, if they're not willing to do that, they're no better than they were before. Even if Ron Paul's saying the right stuff and poking the right holes, it's like you get nowhere. Which
yeah,
is crazy, because this is totally baffling to me, because me and this person have like none of the endpoint political policy positions in similar, but the person who's best at this right now, unironically, is Nick Fuentes, which is
oh
nuts to
boy.
me. I know, but like, and I'll sit there and see a clip from him, and I'll just be like, "Wow, that was fantastic!" Because he's just taken on the establishment in these ways and just poking all these holes. And he's like such a great orator and puts it in such a great way, and it's just like, damn it, like it sucks because his audience is just a bunch of like incels, and he's putting them in this direction. But it's like, why is Nick Fuentes the one who's doing the best at this right now? Like, how do we not have somebody that can do this? And maybe I'm saying this as someone who I mean, I could try, but it's like, I don't know, like, why is he the best one at this right now? Why is there nobody else that can?
Well, I think there's a few. I think Dave Smith does a fairly good
He's
job,
pretty
and
good
he's
at it,
he's
yeah.
he's very very public, and he's well spoken, and he can at least shred the normie neocon war hawk type person, right? I think he does a very good job advocating for liberty. I just watched his episode with Joe Rogan. He's got the most exposure. That's awesome. That's cool. But I get your point. Like the fact that Nick Fuentes is happening to be like the hottest person right now is there's data there, but also it's a little bit depressing because what he represents is pretty gross to people like us. It's like, oh, this is disgusting, but damn it, the kid's good.
Right. It's like he says all this stuff where he's just talking about like what's going on right now, and he's poking holes and all these conspiracies and the establishment stuff, and just be like, quit just being robots and following Trump and blah blah blah, and it's like all this is fantastic, and then it's like then he talks about like what everyone should do and what the ideals are, and it's like, oh, you've completely lost me. But there's something about just that foundation that he seems to have cracked, and
well, I think he's a true believer. I think he's a true believer, and he
seems very genuine.
I'll give him that much. Even if he's got shit ideas, like he's a true believer. And this is one of the things I don't like about the libertarian grifters out there is, and maybe they're not grifter, maybe that's the wrong word. Apologies for that. But there are people, and I understand the libertarian group is a spectrum, no pun intended. But they do tend to cluster, especially the ones that are more famous, tend to cluster on the authoritarian side of that libertarian spectrum. They're just, these sort of, Republican adjacent, borderline. I mean, a lot of them were just openly MAGA supporters, this election. And that seems to be where the center of mass is for most of the libertarian influencers or discourse or whatever you want to call it online today. And that's kind of sad to me. I don't like seeing that, because the people that seem to have substance to them and genuinely care about liberty and aren't going to compromise their beliefs for some temporary political win, if you can even call it a win, they're just few and far between.
It was very alienating for me in this last election, because I'm very far from being right wing. I mean, there's a lot of people in the libertarian movement that are like very culturally right wing, and I am very, very far away from that. Like, I'm very culturally progressive, which should not be an issue. But a lot of these libertarians will just, that's their whole fucking personality, is being this cultural conservative. And the problem is that politics very often is downstream from culture, and they can't seem to allow that to bleed into their politics. And now they're just, falling into the same trap that a lot of these Republicans are in. And then, you have a lot of people that are just like, fuck it, I'm not even a libertarian anymore. And it's like, I mean, all right, I guess. But it sucks because I don't think there's a whole lot of, I mean, you said it earlier, there's like 5 people, and like, I don't think that's much of an exaggeration. Like, I genuinely have a hard time feeling like, I'm on the same wavelength or on similar team as a lot of these people. it's very alienating. Like, I don't even know. It's like, me and my wife have this joke where I'll just be like ranting about something, just be like, yeah, everyone's stupid except for us. It's like, okay.
I think everyone has that feeling at some point.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the Stefan Molyneux's return to Twitter?
I mean, I think it's fine. He has a lot of really good anarchist literature that will always be there, and I will even recommend it to people. I think, he's also somebody that's like a hyper-cultural conservative and focuses a lot on these cultural issues that I just could not care less about. And so it's
like what? Like, what are the things you think that he's
like
over-indexed on?
Taylor Swift needs to get busy because her eggs are drying up. It's like, dude, who gives a shit? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm so removed from cultural issues that it's just like, man, just, I don't know, just do whatever you want. If you want your eggs to dry up, like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's not something that bothers me at all. And the problem is that sort of mentality seems to bother people. They're like, how could you not care? It's like, this person.
Well, I think he's overlapping with Nick Fuentes a lot. Yeah. Honestly, like he's got this sort of Venn diagram where this if you peel back the covers, and I have a lot of respect for Stefan. I think he's a rigorous philosopher. I've learned a ton from him, a lot of respect from him in a lot of ways, but I think there's this blind spot he's got where it's like this conclusion that he came to that the white Westerns have got to push back via population growth because we're going to become, like, I understand the arguments he's making, a lot of the same arguments that Nick makes. Um, that stuff has always rubbed me the wrong way. I'm always kind of like you, where it's like, I'm going to mind my own business. Like, I've got my wife and she can worry about her eggs. I can worry about her eggs, and everybody else can fuck off. It's none of y'all's business. It doesn't feel like that should be a very controversial place for everyone to land.
I think where it starts to lose me is just like how made up it is. Because I mean, if you think about any of these cultural issues for long enough, like it's something at some point somebody just kind of like arbitrarily put it together and now they have this opinion. Where it's like, okay, we need to fight for our white race. It's like, okay, what is that? What does that mean? What is a white person? It's like, at some point, like you start peeling that back and it's like, okay, well, is it somebody that has lived in America or they're European? I mean, like, what about before that? What if I have like 10% black in me? Like, it's like at some point there's just been this like arbitrary line that's been drawn, and then people like build that line up and then just die on top of the hill. And it's like, why do you even need to make that line? Like a lot of the cultural stuff just like kind of is that to me, where I'm just like, I'm just not gonna draw that line. Like, I just don't
Yeah,
care.
I think it's silly, man, because I think the argument he's making and maybe Nick's making is like, oh, well, you bring these people in. It's always like, quote unquote, these people, and they're bringing socialism with them. They're voting a certain way once they get here, and they're changing America into this leftist hellhole. And then meanwhile, look at the MAGA movement, which is vastly white, and they're communist as hell. They're collectivists. They're
Right, it's like
socialists.
you're gonna bring in people that are gonna vote the wrong way, and it's like, you're voting the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like what are you talking about here? It's weird. I'm very averse to the idea of taking sort of pride about like an immutable characteristic about yourself, and vice versa. Like, I don't like you because of an immutable characteristic about yourself, or you're inferior because of this. And that seems obvious,
or a
right?
straight up accident of birth.
Right.
Like
And
where you happen to have fallen out on this patch of dirt, like that somehow matters.
that seems obvious to people that just like aren't racist. But like the other side of it is like equally feeling like prideful and superior for an immutable characteristic about yourself, or like associating yourself with the accomplishments of like your ancestors just because of the happenstance of your birth. Like, your ancestors built this great pyramid. That's cool. You didn't do that.
Fuck you, Dylan. We did that. We kicked their ass in World War II. You'd be speaking German right now, Dylan, if it wasn't for us. We did that. Do you ever see that Doug Stanhope bit?
Yeah.
About nationalism? That's one of my favorite things. Oh, that was you and me, Tommy? Like, we got high and watched bloopers last night, and I don't remember garroting Krauts in the trenches of Verdun. Like, it's so dumb.
I know.
This sort of collective pride in some shit that you had no part in.
Well, I think there's a lot of that, and a lot of that is what informs stuff like the conclusions that Nick Fuentes comes to. It's just like, to me, that strips you of your individuality as well. To me, everything comes back to individuality. Like, you're taking this collective pride in your ancestors' accomplishments, or the color of your skin, or your hair, or your genetics in these ways, and it's like, you're not you anymore, right? You are them. You are your genetics. You are the happenstance of the location of your birth. No, like, you're you. Be you. Don't let these things define you, because they don't. And that's what people are doing, and then they're using that to inform these collectivist views that cause all these fucking problems. And I'm certainly not a fan of that. And people get upset. Well, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be white, or I'm proud to be black, or blah blah blah. And it's like, just be you, man. Like, Why you
Well,
gotta latch on to it? It's like they're not interesting. They're not interesting enough as a person, so they have to latch on. And so like a lot of it. Here's the thing: I don't have any issue with transgenderism just as a thing. My issue arises when people make it their identity, because now they're stripping themselves as their individuality, because they just they're not interesting enough persons. They have to assign all these identities to themselves and be like, I'm this now and I'm that now. And it's like, dude, just be you. If you want to, like, you don't have to fit these. That's the thing. They're like, I don't fit into this role or this role, so I'm going to create a whole new role. It's like, bro, just don't be a role. You know what I mean? Like, that
it's easier said than done, though, man.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's a hack when you think about it. When you talk about status, right? Because we have to understand you are an individual, but you're also playing status games in the world. And if you are a low status male, you have a very difficult time competing in the marketplace. Have you seen the statistics of how many men women find attractive?
Yeah, where it's very
It's like the top
lopsided.
8%, like the bottom 92% or something crazy like that. Like women just generally don't find attractive. So let's say you're way far left on the bell curve. What are your options, man? Like that, you have incel, or it's like, well, I guess I can increase my social status by doing this cool thing called trans, and now I'm brave and stunning, and everyone gives me social credit, and I can be a lesbian, and essentially I'm in the same spot but at a higher.
Yeah, or you're like an Andrew Tate alpha male. It's like
Yeah,
they're just kind of like, there's this like list of things that you can like choose to do, and I mean, like, I don't know. I guess I just got lucky in finding my wife. So I don't envy people that are kind of fending for themselves in this space right now. But
it's deeper than that too, because I think it's just generally difficult to find out who you are. I think if you've gone down the philosophical journey, it's like, whoa, when you start talking about determinism, like, well, there's parts of us that are clearly deterministic. What parts are quote unquote free will? It's like, well, we don't have libertarian free will. So what type of free will do we have? What type of decision making do we have? Am I a automaton? Am I a robot? I think it's very complicated. And then you start thinking about like, well, how do I define my identity? Identity is like super important in social structures. To your point, it's a lot easier to just slap on somebody else's identity, to glom onto a group. That's why you get these hyper, like you ever see those people that are like super into a football team? They're like I've been a Dallas Cowboys fans, and they'll like literally fight. I've been to football games where people are punching each other over their tribal affiliation with
yeah,
some corporation that's out there throwing a ball around. People will
it's
find anything to latch onto to get some sort of identity that is not individual to them, that is just some group thing that they can glom onto. It's a real problem.
it's funny because I'm a huge NFL football fan,
Me too.
and like, I a few years ago just like wanted to choose my team, because I just felt like that was more, my choice. And so I'm a Bucks fan. But when I talk about football with other people that are also fans of teams, I very, very deliberately don't use we when talking about the team, because it makes me cringe so hard. I'm just like, dude, you're not on the Cowboys. Calm down. Not only are you not on the Cowboys, but none of them give a shit about your opinion about anything. There's not this like collective accomplishment that when they win games, but people feel that, and
And
it's
what's
weird.
crazy
Everyone's
is
got to pick
that
something.
exists within the team too. So like this team is this abstract thing, and then players just come and go. Like the team persists over time, and everybody identifies with this team, and it has nothing to do with the actual players in the football team. If that player gets traded tomorrow,
Yeah, it
the
lasts
next
longer
set,
than the players that are actually on the team. Yeah, I've never thought
yeah,
about that.
mid season, like the greatest player that you've been cheering for all season gets traded to a rival, and also next time he comes to the stands, it's fuck you, it's two middle fingers, and it's screaming epithets at it. I mean, it's a wild thing to witness, but I think it's interesting because I intentionally engage in the tribalism. Like I grew up a Seahawks fan. I lived in
Yeah.
Seattle for a long time, and like we didn't have right. Like I'm playing. The team didn't have a Super Bowl forever, right? And
Mhm.
finally got one, and the whole city erupted, and it was like this cool moment. You know, remember the whole Marshawn, Pete Carroll era? Like that was the most amazing time to be in Seattle. It really brought the city together. So when I moved to Nashville, I actually made the decision, even though I'm a lifelong Seahawks fan, I'm like, I'm switching to the Titans. Just because number one, the Titans haven't won a Super Bowl. And number two, when that happens, because it's eventually going to happen, I'm gonna be part of that. I'll be part of the community. Like, you know, I think if you approach it in a conscientious way, like you said, if you're,
As long as you know what you're doing, I think it's
yeah,
fair.
have
Like
fun with it.
I grew up Eagles fan only because my dad was. Um, I wasn't born there. He wasn't even born there. Neither one of us ever lived in Philly. And you know, when I got older and I started, was like, why am I even an Eagles fan? Why do I care so much about this team? And so I was just like, I'm just gonna be teamless. Like I still love football, but like it just feels so weird rooting for one of the teams. Like there's no reason for this or that. And after a few years, I was like, man, I really want to cheer for a team really bad. So I was
It's
like,
in
all
us,
right, I guess
man.
I'll just pick one. And I literally, it was the first year Baker Mayfield started playing, and I was like, I love Baker. Dude's a fun story. I want him to win. And also just like Pirates are sick. And like I love the colors. So I'm a Tampa fan now.
Well, like I said, at least you're doing it consciously, man. There's a lot of people that just float through and do this stuff unconsciously, and then football's fun, and but when you get into issues of life and death, it becomes less fun. And
Yeah.
so things
Yeah.
like borders, like I talk to people about borders all the time. What do you think about national borders?
I mean, it like the same way that I feel about anything that the government does. I'm not like the problem is like you get so like deep in the weeds with all of these things, and it's like I don't know. I don't know what my position is on it, to be honest,
Doesn't it
because
feel simple? Like maybe I'm dumb, but for me, this was always super simple. I was always kind of in the realm of legitimate borders exist around private property. Full stop.
yeah, I mean 100%. The problem is like I look at the state and I go, this thing sucks. It's not good at the things that it does. It corrupts everything that it does. So of course, the state being in charge of any sort of borders is a problem, um, and an issue. It's just like I mean, yeah, like philosophically, I'm 100% against it. I mean, even practically, I'm against it. But like, it feels it's difficult having those conversations because it's not like we're debating on whether or not property taxes should go up or down in the city of Austin. It's like, should this country exist?
Mm.
It's not like it's purely like, does free will exist? You know, like it's not. It's like it's an interesting hypothetical conversation, you know, and it just seems like it's an interesting one, but to treat it as any sort of like something that could be practically applicable, um, I think is a disservice to it because like Congress isn't just going to dissolve the national border ever. Like it's just the country needs to literally fall for anything like that to ever happen. Um, so it's a tough thing to have a conversation about. It's like, yeah, what should we like our taxes should be gone? Like, yeah. Like what does that even mean? What does that even look like, you know? Like if I had a button, would I just click it and the state would go away? It's like, sure. But
Well,
like,
I don't know.
does
I've
that
always said
button
I
exist?
wouldn't. I've always said I wouldn't. I think that it would be worse, right? I think that without a conscious movement away from statism and towards the ideas of liberty, and you know, I think that movement also has to be gradual. I don't think you do it overnight. If you had a
Right.
button like erase the state button tomorrow and hit it, like I think that's terrible. I think that without that understanding, it's going to probably end up with something much worse than what we have now.
Yeah, that's the thing though. I mean, it's also like impossible. Like that will never be something that is possible ever, you know? So it's literally just like a hypothetical conversation, which is great. I mean, people need to have those and understand the principles at a fundamental level and how to apply those. Um, but most people don't think that way or care about those things. They're like, in the here and now, how do you feel about this thing in particular? So I'll be having and it's done me a disservice because I'll be having conversations with my father, who's very MAGA Republican, and I probably made the mistake of making my foundational ideology known to him. So anytime we have any sort of contention on anything, he's like, "Well, you're just an anarchist anyways. You just want the whole world to fucking explode, and you don't even believe in countries and blah blah blah." And it's like, damn, that's always his out, you know. So we can't have a conversation about, you know, whether to reduce taxes here or there. And he's like, well, you don't even believe in taxes, and you just want the world, you want like the government to, you know, this and that. And it's like, now I can't, like, people that know that about me or aren't willing to meet me at the current conversation, it gives them an out, and it's kind of an issue, because if we're talking about a current policy that's being debated, and you just dismiss my opinion because you know that ultimately I don't want the state to exist at all, we're not anywhere beneficial anymore. You know,
It's
does
an
that make
easy
sense?
straw. Yeah, totally. I get it all the time. It's an easy straw man. Like everybody's just like, oh, well, you're an anarchist. Well, I don't even like using the word. Like I really, I feel like it's been so polluted. It's been tainted with images of Molotov cocktails and Antifa and all this crap. I try to avoid that term, but it's eventually inescapable if you're having a discussion about these things, whether the state should exist or not. And I do these experiments all the time. I like to walk through real world concrete experiences that show that if you disagree and mean it, the state's going to murder you every single time. And I can't even get people to agree on that. They're just like, well, it's like, I'll walk. Have you done this before where you walk them
Yeah.
through, like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, let's say I'm growing a plant in my backyard that the state doesn't like. The politicians say, it's bad, I can't have it. And they find out about it. What's going to happen? Walk me through the steps. And like, well, you're going to go to jail. It's like, hold on, like back up, and you walk them all the way through to that point, and then when they kick your door down and they try to, wrestle you down and throw you in a cage, and you say, well, if I try to defend myself, well, then you're assaulting a police officer. It's like there's like this cognitive dissonance, and then if they finally do accept it, then they just bounce back to like, well, it doesn't matter, you have to have this because you're a stupid anarchist, you don't understand the reason why we have to have this, you're dumb. Like, then all of the straw men come out.
Well, a lot of
Everything
the
just
new,
feels.
like, libertarian Republicans now, it's like, oh well, you're just this utopian, you know,
Oh, I
libertarian,
hate that.
and it's like you don't live in the real world, and you just want to debate on whether taxation is theft or not. But like, we are participating in politics. We're the big boys on campus. Like, you know, we know how things work here. And it's like, those things aren't mutually exclusive, by the way. And also, like, you know, that's another example of it just kind of doing a little bit of a disservice, because now even the people that once were in that camp can now use that as like, okay, well, you're just this impractical, you know, just philosophy debater. You know, we're the ones with the big balls that are going to, you know, make the world different through politics.
It's super
And
interesting though, because like, think about it. When has voting or engaging in political action in any way made anything better? I keep asking. This is a challenge I throw on every time, because there's like, well, this election, we're really going to make things better. And it was like, okay, when government grows every single time, the
yeah,
size, the cost, the scope, the tyranny of government every single time. In this
any sort of,
election, okay,
well, any sort of, I'm just agreeing with you. Like, any sort of like election is going to have, because you could have like one-offs, right? Where it's like, okay, you have this one proposition in Austin where it's like, should we decriminalize weed? And it's like, if people went and voted for that and then it passed and then weed was now decriminalized, that would be a step in the right direction for liberty. But it's never just that. It's like, here are all of these representatives you're voting for, and then also here are all these other propositions that you're voting for. And ultimately, it seems like the net is always a reduction in liberty, even if there are small, you know, wins buried in there.
yeah, and I have a hard time finding the wins. I think on the local level, it's a lot easier. I think, Florida's talking about doing away with property taxes. I know Tennessee, where I live, is talking about doing it. I'm like, hell yeah, because I'm building an off-grid homestead, so down with that. But at the more national level, I've never seen it more exemplified than this particular election. I've seen all of these quote unquote libertarians line up to support Trump, and they were saying this can be different. You don't understand, man. Elon, Ron Paul's on board. Vivek, we're going to cut government, bro. I promise this time it's going to be different. And the whole time I'm like, you guys are idiots. This is not going to turn out the way you think. And we're 6 months in or 8 months in, wherever the hell it is right now. And this is probably the most tyrannical government I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm 50.
Certainly the most openly corrupt and grifty government we've ever seen. It's certainly on the trajectory to be the most tyrannical government we've ever seen. I mean, you can make the argument now, but if this continues for the next 3.5 years, we're gonna see a very different country that I'm not excited about.
Well, what I gotta push back, man, because like, what are you seeing that I'm not? Because I'm seeing negatives across the board. I'm seeing
Oh, it's negatives
obviously.
across the board. I don't know. I'm just trying to.
Put it this way, I can't think of one that's worse. I can't picture one that's worse in any way, shape, or form, except for maybe the first Trump term when he unleashed the COVID shots and all that stuff. Like, and the inflation stuff that happened, like that was really bad. But this one is like, I mean, shit. Look at the news today. They just blew up a boat. The U.S. military just blew up a fucking boat near Venezuela. Like some summary execution, and it was like a canoe, man. It was like an 18-foot, like it's absolutely insane what's happening. He's sending, federal troops to cities now. They're talking about, I think Noam was in New Orleans today, talking about the next set of federal troops going to be deployed in New Orleans. They're talking Chicago, and like I'm looking around the tariffs, like god damn, the tariffs, taxes are through the roof, and everyone's cheering for this shit. And I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Oh, the other thing, they're stealing people's guns. In Washington, D.C., they have a tracker. You have, the DOJ, and you've got the FBI posting all these memes every day. Like, this is how many guns we've seized. It's like, these are illegal guns, and the Republicans are cheering. And I'm just like, Jesus, man, I've never seen anything like it. This is just naked aggression, naked disregard for the rule of law, which people claim to believe in. And it's just pure tribal power.
I mean, like, domestically, you're 100% right. The only reservation I have is I see, like, I mean, George Bush started the war in Iraq that ultimately killed like over 1 million people. I mean, that's hard to compete with like grand scale of death and destruction. Obviously, Trump has him
Trump sure
outmatched
tried in
domestically.
Iran. Like, he was trying real hard.
That's what I'm saying. If he continues to do what he does there, he's going to rival George Bush internationally. Domestically, 100%. Agree with you. Also, we've got like, dropping the atomic bomb on Japan. That's a really big one. World War II is pretty. So I absolutely share all of what you're saying. I'm just trying to just weigh everything here, but it's certainly really, really bad. And I've had to come to terms with, like, I mean, I did all of that work for RFK Jr. when he was an independent, and I inadvertently assisted in getting Donald Trump elected, and I seriously regret that. Even if I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, my efforts, however minimal they were in the grand scheme of things, did help gain RFK influence, which he then used to get Trump elected. Same thing with the Libertarian Party. Like, I mean, regardless if it was explicit or not, the Libertarian Party's efforts assisted in getting Donald Trump elected. So, I had a hand in that, and I have to deal with that on my conscience, which sucks. I'm not, but.
Well, I mean, you can't be too hard on yourself. I know you meant well, and it's not like you're just one person. You didn't, and it wasn't particularly close in that election either.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take the L too hard, but I get what you're saying. So interesting. Do you follow Dr. Jack Cruz at all?
I don't think so.
Ooh, you might want to take a look at that guy. He is a vicious critic of RFK. He was a supporter too originally. He was a big supporter. He started out, and then but way before the election, he had turned, and his big line is "Maha is haha." He called out RFK Jr. for being a huge fraud, before the election, and he had Callie Means on Danny Jones' podcast. I would love for you to watch that one. It's do you know Mary Bowden?
Yes. Yeah.
So it was Mary Bowden and Jack Cruz and Callie Means. I would highly recommend that episode. But yeah, he's been all over that RFK thing. I think you've been critical of him recently about wanting to ban the COVID shots, right? Like that's quite a departure.
Yeah. Like I just I understand, but like the whole idea was like, hey, we're for medical freedom. It's like we don't want the government to say what we can or can't put in our body, and let adults make informed decisions. And it's like, just kidding. You're not like and people will use any justification. It's like, hey, well, I wouldn't let people inject literal cyanide into your body and blah blah blah. And it's like, that's not the conversation. First of all, but like, second of all, why the fuck not? Like it bothered me because it was like how fake the movement was. Like it really bothered me because like I very genuinely was like, I love a lot of the things he's saying. I love the independent thing. I think that could make a real difference if someone who ran as an independent made like got a lot of votes and like made the political parties look stupid. And I really was behind that, and I liked a lot of the stuff he was saying, and it was like all fake. Like it was all fake. He did a 180 on like literally everything at the tip of a hat, and a lot of people just went with it. Like a lot of the supporters were just like, yep, we're going this way now. And a lot of those people that were like this medical freedom community, and whether or not he does ban it or not, these people were cheering it on. Like, this is amazing. This is great for the country. We're now banning this shot. And it's like, look, I get it. Like, I get that this was something that was relatively rushed, and clearly it has a lot of side effects and a lot of censorship around those side effects. Even if people are like, oh, well, we censored because we wanted to make sure that people got it to make the country healthy, blah, 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 whatever. That happened. And there's a lot of stuff there that I really disliked. And, but you can't just, you're just playing the same game. You get into power, and then you're like, okay, now we're going to literally mandate the opposite. It's
well, that's been his shtick the whole time. Like since he's been in office, it's been about, well, what are we going to ban?
Well, I think he's going to do more harm than good because he can't make big changes. Like clearly that's not going to be a thing he's going to be able to do. So has all these little wins where he's like, sweet, Coca-Cola doesn't have artificial colors in it. It's still Coca-Cola, dude. Like this shit's not good for you. And so you have situations where people like, sweet, RFK gave his bill of health for Coca-Cola. And so they're like, hey, sweet. So now people are more comfortable drinking Coca-Cola. Like that seems like not a good thing to me. Like, sure, it went from 98% unhealthy to 97% unhealthy. And it's just all those little wins that he's getting. And it's, I think it's going to do more harm than good. And he's normalizing just getting in and banning a bunch of shit that people don't like, or mandating things that people do like. And it's like, dude, at the end of the day, like, it's not like the COVID vaccine was literally poison. People say that, but like something like 4.5 billion people got these COVID shots. I understand there was a lot of complications and there's people that died, but it's like, it's not like they're literally injecting poison into themselves. And that I think if these people are like adults, they should be able to make their own decisions. And RFK, if he really found something in these studies that is like significant, just release it and let people make their own decisions. Because at the end of the day, like the whole argument was that all of these studies, were not good enough, or like the science was this way, and people are trusting it too much and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're doing nothing different. If you're like, I found this, you're not allowed to take it anymore. It's the same thing as, we found that it was safe and effective, you must take it. It's the same thing, just in the other direction.
And
Like,
people never think about every power that they grant or everything they accept from a government today. If it's a government they like, is going to be used against them tomorrow by the government they don't
dude,
like. The
RFK
powers.
said that so many times verbatim during his campaign. Like, he had some great quotes that got like cheers from me, of all people, and just doing the exact fucking opposite of what he talked about. And it's like, I mean, I get it. He was a kidney, but you know, I should have seen that coming. But like, god damn it, dude, it got
Yeah,
me hyped.
they know the secrets of the game, man. They got gallons of copium in the back, and everybody is huffing.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, that's a good place to end, man. We're getting close to time. Really, thank you for showing up today, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you. You're one of the good ones. One, like I said, like 5 out there that I'm always just like, every time you tweet, I'm like, fucking yes, this is exactly. There's somebody else like me out there. I appreciate it. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you online?
Just my Twitter X account, Dylan M. Allman. I post sometimes. You know, that's really about it. I do put a lot of effort into the things that I do post most of the time. So if people want to read something that's more than like a bumper sticker, that's kind of what I try to specialize in. So
Yeah, it's fantastic content. Everybody check it out. I'm a huge fan. So really, really thank you again for showing up, and we'll chat later.
all right, man, you have a good one.
You too. Bye.